When discussing the causes of obesity, it's easy to focus on food, its quality, its portion size, its nutrient density. But beneath these physical inputs lies something more invisible and often more powerful: the emotional and psychological forces that influence why, when, and how we eat. For many individuals, weight gain is not primarily about ignorance or willful indulgence, but about coping. Emotional eating, driven by stress, sadness, loneliness, boredom, or anxiety, is one of the most pervasive and misunderstood contributors to habitual overeating. And left unchecked, it can silently undermine even the most disciplined diets or well-intentioned health plans. This behavior doesn't arise out of weakness. It is often rooted in deeply conditioned survival mechanisms. When the brain perceives a threat, whether physical danger or emotional distress, it activates the stress response system, triggering the release of cortisol and adrenaline. These hormones once helped our ancestors survive famines and predators, but in modern life, they're more likely to respond to social conflicts, job pressures, financial strain, or existential worry. The problem is that chronic stress, unlike acute stress, doesn't resolve quickly. It lingers, and so does the body's drive to self-soothe. Food becomes a tool not for fueling the body, but for numbing the mind. One of the most dangerous aspects of emotional eating is that it bypasses true hunger signals. A person might reach for food not because their stomach is empty, but because their mind is overwhelmed. The relief food offers is immediate, a temporary sense of comfort, distraction, or dopamine-driven pleasure. Unfortunately, this relief is often followed by guilt, shame, and further emotional distress, creating a feedback loop that can spiral into compulsive overeating and weight gain. What begins as a harmless coping mechanism can, over time, become a hardwired habit. A key warning is that emotional eating is often unconscious. People may not even realize they are using food to manage their emotional state. They might find themselves reaching for snacks late at night, grazing throughout the day, or craving specific comfort foods during emotionally charged moments, without making the connection to their mood or stress level. And because the foods most commonly associated with emotional eating are energy-dense and nutrient-poor, sugary snacks, refined carbs, salty or fatty comfort items, the caloric load adds up quickly. But even when the food is relatively healthy, the act of eating in response to emotion rather than hunger still leads to excess energy intake. Stress-related eating is particularly insidious in our current environment, where food is everywhere and emotional strain is constant. For people dealing with work burnout, family tension, academic pressure, or chronic mental health issues like depression or anxiety, food may become the most accessible and socially acceptable escape. Unlike other compulsive behaviors, eating doesn't raise alarm unless it results in visible weight gain. This makes emotional eating a quiet force that builds over time, gradually increasing body fat while eroding the relationship between food and true nourishment. Importantly, emotional eating isn't just about negative feelings. Even positive emotions, celebration, excitement, nostalgia, can lead to habitual overeating, especially when food becomes the default way to enhance or validate a moment. Emotional eating thrives in a culture that ties food to reward, to love, to identity. And while food rituals can certainly be joyful, they become problematic when they are the only emotional outlet available. Yet despite its deep roots and emotional complexity, there is reason to be hopeful. Emotional eating can be recognized, understood, and repatterned. Awareness is the first and most powerful tool. When people learn to pause and ask themselves, "Am I actually hungry, or am I trying to feel something else?" they begin to break the automatic loop. Mindfulness practices, journaling, therapy, and stress reduction techniques like breathing exercises or physical activity can create alternative coping pathways. In some cases, professional counseling or cognitive behavioral therapy may be necessary to address the underlying emotional drivers that lead to overeating. Reframing the conversation around obesity to include emotional eating also helps reduce stigma. People are not simply weak for eating too much. Many are coping with invisible burdens and doing the best they can to regulate overwhelming emotional states. Blaming individuals without addressing the emotional undercurrents of their eating behaviors is not only unhelpful, it is cruel. A more compassionate, realistic model acknowledges that for many, healing the relationship with food requires healing the mind first. Ultimately, addressing obesity means moving beyond the surface, beyond calories, macronutrients, or diet plans. It means confronting the emotional and psychological realities of modern life that drive people to use food for comfort, control, and temporary relief. Only by doing so can we hope to create sustainable change, not just in body weight, but in mental and emotional well-being. Emotional eating isn't just a bad habit, it's a signal that something deeper needs attention. And if we ignore that signal, we may continue to chase weight loss while missing the very root of the struggle.